Before I begin, I really want to express my concern about the health of my friend, my colleague, Councilmember Welsh. Every single time I have talked, Councilmember Welsh has rolled his eyes, twisted his neck, pulled up his eyebrows, and I'm going to talk for quite a while today, and I really am concerned that Councilmember Welsh does not get a sprained neck. It's kind of damp out and it's unpleasant. So I'm just giving that warning in this respect. Okay, I'm going to talk for a while because what we are doing today is not simply saying, oh, we'll just continue to extend this thing and see what happens. Basically, this is the first step in converting the project over to the company Vanner. In order to really understand what that means, I want to go through all the different concepts that are involved. This is not a simple project. This is the basis of what our downtown area is going to look like for the next 50 years. Whatever we build there, we cannot tear down in one day. It's going to be there. It's going to determine what this city looks like, as I said, for the minimum of the next 50 years. This is one of the decisions that is extremely important for the future of our city. There are only a few times when a decision is that important. And I feel like going back. If we had accepted Walmart instead of rejecting Walmart, we would not be in the financial difficulty we have now. That was an extremely important decision. If we had decided, instead of wasting the money, and I'll use the word wasting it, on a giant police station and built the recycling plant, we would not be in the difficulty we have now with the water supply. So there are a few decisions that are extremely important in determining the future of this city. And I consider this one. What we do now determines the future of the city. Now, the previous council recognized that, and they made the decision that we're going to have a courthouse, and the reason they made the decision for the courthouse was that they figured if we have a courthouse, the courthouse would then bring in another development that would generate tremendous amount of taxes, of sales tax. Now, determining to have a courthouse is not a simple process. The courthouse, we had to buy the land for the courthouse, and that cost $3 million. In order to build that courthouse, the city had to invest a tremendous amount of money. After the courthouse was built, then the city went to look for a developer, and that developer would have to generate enough sales tax to make up for the loss of the property of the courthouse. Remember, the courthouse is quite big. It produces no sales tax whatsoever for the city. So the development that has to come across the way from the courthouse must produce enough sales tax to make up not only for the cost of the courthouse, but also the cost of the land that that development will be on. The courthouse cost $3 million. To purchase the land across the street from the courthouse, it cost us $3 million. Besides that, we had to foreclose and do eminent domain on 2 active businesses, take those businesses and move them elsewhere. So the investment in the city in this project is tremendous. And the only way we're going to get that back is through sales tax. Now, the previous city council that authorized the courthouse did the right thing. They asked for a consultant to take a look at the project when Perlman first came to us and ask the question, will this development bring in enough sales tax to make up for the tremendous investment? And we have that report. I have it right here. I don't know why I have to show it to you, but I feel like showing it to you. This is the report that was given by the consulting firm to that group of people on this city council, and it said, yes, that development is going to bring in enough sales tax to warrant having that development. And it was a beautiful development. And the picture of it was in the City Hall for years. It showed all these pretty boutiques, all the promises that this is going to be an area where people from Banning can come, spend their money, and develop sales tax for the city, and also be a center where people would be proud to come downtown, and it would have various tourists come from other cities also. So the analysis was that that development, which would have a hotel, which would bring in all sorts of visitors and sales tax, right? That was part of it. There were 4 buildings. Each building would produce sales tax for our city. And the city was delighted with that. And as I said, that picture of that particular development was in City Hall for years. And when the time came for election, each one of the members of the city council pointed proudly to that as a reason to be re-elected. There was nothing wrong with that project. And if that was the project that is in front of us now, I would not be giving this talk. I would say, of course, we're going to have that project. It will bring in the sales tax. That is not what happened. Perlman, the developer, at some time decided that he did not want to do that project, so he decided to change it. Now, the contract that Perlman, the developer, wrote and signed said any change in that project must be approved by the city council. Did he come to the city council to make that change? No. He went to the city manager, and he had the city manager agree he'll change the project, and the city manager wrote a letter saying, yes, the project will be changed. He did not inform the city attorney. He did not inform the city council. It was strictly an agreement between the developer and the city manager. And not too surprisingly, that city manager is not here any longer. So we now have not the project we wanted, not the project that was evaluated by the consulting firm, but an entirely different project. The question is, will that project bring in enough sales tax to make up for the investment of the city? We don't know. There has been no analysis of that project whatsoever. Well, at the time, when we finally found out about it, and I found out about it, I said, absolutely not. We want to have a project that is analyzed whether or not it is good for the city. But the city manager had signed this letter, and that produced a lot of legal complications. And our city attorney said, well, who knows what, if we go to court, what a jury will eventually decide. There's no guarantee the city manager made the decision, even though the contract said he was not supposed to, that the city council was supposed to do that. Who knows what would happen, and we may end up in a lawsuit. And we certainly did not want that. You know, there's always uncertainty as to whether or not a lawsuit, even though we believe we're right, we're not certain what will happen. So we went to the Perlman, I guess is the best way to describe him, Mr. Perlman, and we negotiated with him, and we finally agreed, yes, we will accept this project. Why did we accept this project? And I'll repeat it again. Because we were afraid of a lawsuit by the city manager signing this letter, which he was not supposed to do. Did we want this project? I don't know if we wanted it or not, but it was not the project that was approved, that was evaluated. That is the project that we are talking about right now, a project that we are forced on at the time because of the city manager's letter. Well, that project presumably proceeded, but Perlman eventually said he did not have enough money to build it. And in my heart, I said, wonderful, wonderful. Now we have an opportunity to have somebody else come in with a project which can be evaluated, which we can be certain will bring enough sales tax. Is this project likely to bring in enough sales tax? Well, it hasn't been evaluated, But my answer automatically is no. Let's take a look at this project. There are 4 buildings in this project. What does this project now have? One building will have as complete occupancy the probation office and the district attorney's office. How much sales tax will that building produce? 25% of this project will produce 0 sales tax. What is the chance of this project really being what a city wants? In my opinion, if you have 25% of the project producing 0 sales tax, there is no chance that this project is going to be one that the city can be proud of. Now, let's take a look at some other things, and I have a list right here, Okay. We talked to Veneer, as a subcommittee. And one of the very first things we said is, well, the original contract with Perlman was made because the city so wanted that project that they gave Perlman everything he asked for. What did he ask for? Well, the land at the time was worth $1 million, and he signed a promissory note that he would pay that $1 million after he finished the project, basically. Who ever heard of a project like that? Would you sell your house and on the condition that, oh, they'll pay for it later? It just didn't make any sense. But the city was so anxious for that project that they agreed to that. Well, Veneer is coming in, and they're doing the same thing. They'll say, oh, we'll pay the $1 million for the land after we build the first building, not before. That shows how much confidence they have and how they really think that our city is so desperate for this project. Well, I don't think we're desperate. Our budget is balanced. We can wait for a project that will, in the long run, produce sales tax for the city. Now let's take a look at Veneer, the company that has taken over from the Perlman project. The subcommittee met with them, and they first said, we really want to build the one building with the probation office and the DA's office. We don't want to build anything else. Our business in general, Veneer said, is to build buildings for the county. And would you please just let us build the one building? And of course, both of us said, no, we want the whole project. So Veneer said, well, if we don't build the building, the county will sue us because we have contracts with the county for a building for them. And we said, well, we really need something downtown that will occupy the whole area. So Veneer came back and said, well, and they didn't exactly use these words, but it was obvious, well, we really cannot afford to violate our contracts with this county, so we'll build the whole project. Did they want to build the whole project? No. And they said that several times. They're building the project so as not to be sued by the county. Do they think it's a good project? I don't know, but they weren't interested in building the project. Again, who would have anyone build a project because they're required to by contracts with the county? This project is not one that we as a city wants because it doesn't produce enough sales tax, and it is not even wanted by the developer. The developer is building it because they are required to satisfy the county for a building for their probation office. Now, let's take a look at the probation office. That is going to be one of the tenants downtown. Now, there's some disagreement. Is a probation office an office that will introduce criminals into the city and therefore increase the crime rate? There's a lot of arguments about that. That is not what is important. Let's assume that no, there is no increase in crime, but there is an increase in the perception of the city. Anyone that you talk to and you say there's going to be a probation office downtown, and I guess I shouldn't exaggerate, not everyone, but many people say, if there's a probation office, I'm not going near it. In Hemet, the county leased a building in a shopping center for a probation office. And every one of the shop owners complained so vigorously that the perception of a probation office was sufficient that they were afraid that their shopping center would fail, and finally the county had to withdraw the requirement. So we're talking about the perception. If we're going to have a project downtown, we want one that has the perception of being something that will attract people to the city. So when I say this is not the project that we want, and we should do nothing to encourage this project, it is based upon two very important things. First, this project will not produce the sales tax that is required. Secondly, it is not the project that will make this city something that is desirable to have people go downtown. So I just urge everyone on this council to recognize that this development by Veneer is strictly to satisfy their requirement to the county and is not designed to help our city.
Thank you. Councilmember Moyer?
Okay.